You guys, we're just going to wait for a few more people to join before we get started with our second Depot Biz Chats.
Excited to be here.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Butterflies.
Yep.
Not really.
Tanya, this is your second time being in the store, right?
This is my second time being in the store. I had no idea that the location we're in, which is downtown Austin, Texas, is actually the national flagship store for Office Depot. And it is super gorgeous. I'm going to do a little walkthrough on Instagram after we do our broadcast, and it is super fancy. Rod, this is a super fancy store you're in
Thank
charge
you.
of.
I appreciate it. I am honored and proud to be the SSA, the Senior Solution Advisor, based out of this flagship. I see people coming here all the time, think they're in the wrong spot, and we have to chase people out and bring them back in. So it makes for an exciting day, but I love being here.
Cool. All right, well, let's get started. We're now about 2 or 3 minutes in. We have a few people in the chat. Oh, 7 people already. So let's,
There we go.
let's get this
7,
party going.
That's my favorite number.
Lucky number 7. So, hey guys, this is our second installment of Depot Biz Chats, where we talk about and discuss pain points that small business owners and entrepreneurs deal with, big and small. And I'm Jason Eisenberg, your community manager. This is something that we'll be doing on our Office Depot page, linked with our Facebook group specifically for small business owners. I'm really excited to be here with Tanya Tarr and Rod Henderson. Tanya is a Forbes contributor. I actually found her there first. I saw one of her articles and I reached out to her and then actually ran into her at one of our meetup in Austin. Yeah, it's really cool how it works out in Austin. So she's a contributor there. She's a vice president of advantagSPRING, which is a global commercial negotiation consultancy. And Tanya also has her own firm called Your Edge Coaching.
Yes.
Correct. Cool.
Yeah, so I am super excited about anything negotiation, and I'm really excited to both be serving corporate clients as well as helping entrepreneurs just like you get better at the art and science of negotiation. I think it's a really critical skill for anyone, particularly if you're a small business owner and you are trying to make your way into the world. You know that negotiation happens all the time. And also, I have to say, Jason, I love Office Depot. I was joking with these guys before. So before I worked as a corporate trainer and as an executive coach, I spent 17 years working in politics and campaigns. And so I would always know 3 important locations: airport, hotel, where's the closest Office Depot, because they always save my bacon. They would, I'd run on campaigns, they'd fling me into the middle of the country, and always need to know where you can buy a lot of Sharpies. For some reason, Sharpies, clipboards, all those things you need to run a campaign.
Post-it notes, all that good stuff.
Post-it notes,
Right.
yes. So Office Depot has saved my bacon many a time.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited, too, to talk about a lot of things that entrepreneurs and small business owners and startup folks might be facing. Because, and Rod and I were talking about this earlier, there's a difference between selling and negotiating. And figuring out what that nuance is really important, right? Because if you're, and they're interconnected, right? So it's kind of like a Reese's peanut butter cup. You got the peanut butter and the chocolate coming together, and it is a perfect match made in heaven. And it's the same with selling and negotiation, right? So you want to make sure that you know how to sell the benefit or present the unique selling point of your product or your service, but you don't want to do that so much so that you don't stop selling when you're negotiating, because they're 2 very different things. If you oversell and continue to sell after your negotiating terms, that might kind of undermine your position with your buyer. But if you don't sell enough and you go straight to negotiating, that could also turn off a buyer and you might lose a sale. So it's a super nuanced thing. And Rod, you are an expert in sales.
I don't know about expert, but
Own it.
I've had some
Own it,
success thanks to the leadership that I had around me. And that's a great point that you made. And I've been a victim of that starting out in sales as well. Overselling when I should be in the negotiation thing. And the keys to kind of gauging that is definitely reading the body language of the buyer, as well as asking those questions. As I'm going through that sales process, I'm just constantly asking questions. How does that sound? Do you understand? And then once I feel that we're in that point where I think we need to transition to the negotiation stage, I'll verify with them. Okay, how does that sound? Do you think this solution will work for you? Okay, the next step is let's talk about pricing. Let's go ahead and get this closed. So,
Rod, real quick. So is there a point in that sales that you know that you should start negotiating? Is there a point where you can identify it?
Each time is going to be different.
Okay.
But I think the more experience, the more practice that you have with that, you'll be able to easily or sooner identify that.
Okay, that
and
makes
like I said, a lot of times it might be body language, or it might just be expression that I've said something going through my sales process, and whatever I said resonated with that customer, and I saw that they just lit up inside, and I got it.
Right.
So it's just those context clues.
I think
those
too,
indicators.
you mentioned, Rod, you mentioned a really good question too about, okay, do we have a fit here, and like now we can move to negotiating terms.
Exactly.
I think that's really helpful too, just to be super transparent about where you are in that process. So
And
yeah.
another thing, you always, whenever you're selling to a customer, whatever the product or solution that you're selling, you always want to make sure it fits that need of the customer.
Right.
You know, because that creates loyalty. If you're just trying to sell a product and it doesn't rectify a pain point or a need that they have, in the long run, it's going to be a bad experience for the customer, and it's going to waver on them maybe coming back to you later for some other services or whatever that case may be.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you for going into sales. So let's shift a little bit more into negotiation.
Negotiation, yeah. So once you've figured out with your potential client or customer or buyer that there is a match here, I like to think of it as the 3 key A's of negotiating. I have notes, sorry, this is ridiculous, but you know. And actually too, I just wrote about this on Forbes, on my Forbes series today, about the 4 things that entrepreneurs need to keep focused on to be successful. And the thing about it too is that people are like, oh, just give me the 3 points. And I'm like, actually my key points are 10 points. So it's hard for me to boil it down. But here are the 3 things to really keep in mind. The first thing as a business owner is to make sure you anchor first, you anchor high, and you anchor credibly. This is good advice for pretty much any negotiation, but particularly for a business, you want to make sure that you control as much as you can. You control the outcome, control the negotiation. And so anchoring is a negotiation term that means the first offer that's given, usually in price.
Right.
And it's called an anchor because it exhibits strong pull and influence over every other transaction or deal that happens in the course of that negotiation. So you want to make sure that you negotiate and that you anchor high so that you can control that piece of the discussion. And you also, again, you want to be credible. So it's really important to be as competitive as you can be because you're claiming value for your company, but you want to be credible. So what do I mean by that? So being credible means, tying it to things that make sense, like market value, for example, right? And knowing what else is on the market. That's going to help make your pricing credible and how much the cost of materials are and labor and things of that nature. The second tip is adapt quickly. Now this again is really good advice for any entrepreneur because so much of entrepreneurship is adapting really quickly, right? We want to fail fast to know what's not working so we can move on to the next thing because time really is money when you're self-employed, right? So adapting quickly, what does that actually mean from a negotiation standpoint? It's do your research, right? And you want to be prepared so that you know all of the options that might be available, not only to you, but also to your potential client or customer. So that means really knowing what your competition is doing and what their pricing is and where they might even be regionally, depending on what it is that you're offering, in terms of goods and services. The other thing too about adaptability is that you're going to find your ability to adapt is going to speed up the more that you prepare. And I feel a little bit like a broken record here, but what happens, so Rod and I were talking, Rod used to be Rod is an athlete, and then I practice martial arts. I'm a student, and so the one thing we've noticed, right, is you're in a stressful situation, and what happens? Adrenaline dump.
Yes.
Adrenaline dump. And so what happens when you have that adrenaline dump, which a lot of people have when they go into a negotiation, is your higher order cognitive skills stop working, right? So the way to manage around that, especially as a new business owner, you want to present a really professional kind of demeanor, particularly during business negotiations. So what do? You want to do as much preparation as possible, and so that includes trying to anticipate counter offers in a negotiation, right? So some people call it scenario planning. But it's really just sort of thinking through what could happen, what are the costs involved, things of that nature, and then working your way backwards, having at least one counteroffer prepared. Even if you don't use it, you're still thinking it through, and that's going to make the negotiation much smoother. And then the last thing is alternatives equal power. So what do I mean by that? Well, the Walkaway Plan, also known as the best alternative to negotiated agreement. You want to be sure that you keep in mind your options, right? Because sometimes the best option is not actually to have a deal. If that client or that customer is trying to, shortchange you, or maybe they're going to be too much of a hassle, you have to remember that if you walk away from a deal, your best option might be another opportunity. And so keeping those three in mind, man, I've talked a lot, but keeping those three in mind, the 3 A's, have really helped me because, I too am an entrepreneur, and just keeping focused on those things can really help you just stay focused on success, which is really important. Entrepreneurs are very distracted. Lots of shiny
absolutely. I mean,
objects.
that's part of the life of being an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
My dog
You
is
have a lot
hard
going
work
on.
session.
Yeah.
But so if you could quickly summarize those 3 A's real quick again for people.
Yeah, the 3 A's are anchor first, high, and credibly. The second A is adapt quickly. Do your preparation, but really that's about adaptability. And then the third one is alternatives equal power. Again, your walkaway plan is a source of power for you as a business owner.
Cool. At this point, I also want to say hi to a few people who have commented on our wonderful Facebook Live chat. So hi, Andre from Alabama, and hi, Patty.
Hi.
Andre and
Who wrote,
Patty.
I love it. So, and then I have to say hi to my father, who's also just commented on it. I haven't read it yet.
Well, hi, Jason's dad.
Yeah,
Hi, Jesus' dad.
he's definitely nitpicking if I say and like a lot. So please
He
don't.
does that a lot.
Please, what?
It's all good.
Come on now.
It's all
I'm just
good.
kidding. I thought a few things that were really, really important and interesting to me, because we've had a couple discussions prior to this Facebook Live, was you said before practice makes power.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yes.
and I really like that idea of negotiation is a full body experience. It's not
It is
just
a
a mental experience. It's not just in your mind or in your heart. It's
Right.
everything. It's
Yeah.
why I sweat sometimes when I shouldn't be sweating.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So
It's okay.
how do you? So one way you said to work around that is
Yeah.
to prepare.
Yes.
Right. You have a natural instinct that could kick in if you're preparing and practicing enough.
Right.
Is there another way to practice that mindfulness as far as, I'm feeling that tension, I'm feeling that pressure.
That adrenaline
I don't want to
bounce is
show
coming.
my cards, right? I don't want to show my cards in this negotiation.
Right.
Are there any other? I mean, I'm kind of throwing you on the spot here.
No. I wrote a book about this, so I have tons of advice on this. Absolutely. I mean, so the first thing is, if you want a very free and very private option, is just use your laptop and turn that web camera on and practice with your web camera. A lot of people sometimes find it uncomfortable to see themselves on film or to listen to their voice, but the thing is, you cannot ask for a more objective training partner than your web camera. The other thing is, try to practice as much as possible with friends, in low risk sort of environments. And actually, I'm going to shamelessly plug, Rod has helped me put together a really great event that we're going to have here in the flagship store here in Austin on Tuesday, July 31st at 6:30. It's super great. We have the Eventbrite. We'll drop a link in the comments later. But we're going to be doing an event here where I'm actually going to be leading a super interactive training where we are going to be able to practice those negotiations. And so it's in an environment with other entrepreneurs and small business owners just like you, getting together and practicing your pitch, practicing your sales pitch, practicing that nuance between sales and negotiation. You have to practice it. It's like, it is a full body experience. And it's kind of like learning how to speak a language or how to drive a car. These are things you cannot learn from reading a book. You actually have to experience the whole thing over and over again, because people talk about like muscle memory. This is mental memory.
Right.
And when that adrenaline dump happens, what happens is you are going to revert to whatever your habit is or whatever your training is. So then we know, okay, this is something that's trainable, right? So literally the only path forward to success is to really just practice it a million times, because eventually it's not going to be uncomfortable.
Right. Exactly.
It just becomes second hat.
Just had an epiphany on why I had 3-a-days in football back in high school. Because when you're in a play, you don't have time to think and process what's happening. It's all that training that just kicks in and puts
That's
you.
why you run the same
Exactly.
thing over and over.
And as a kid, you're like, this is ridiculous. I know how to run a straight line,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, that makes perfect
But in the
sense.
moment, it just becomes instinctive, and you don't
Yeah.
think about it. And next
That's
thing you know,
exactly
you're just reacting to a situation.
Yeah. I'm curious too, like how many sales and negotiations have you done over the course of your career?
Oh, it's okay. Well, I've been working for our Office Max Office Depot for 9 years, so I've done quite a bit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
hundreds, probably thousands.
Yeah, I've done
right?
quite a bit. At first, it was a little scary for me because they took a chance on me, and this was my first sales job, like in 2010. And so it was a little nerve-wracking for me. I guess this can lead into my 3 sales tips. I guess.
Let's do it.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
And so I was a guy that had no sales experience, and grateful that my district manager at the time saw something in me, and he's like, "Look, you have all the tools. We just have to sharpen those tools, and you'll be a great, successful sales rep." But I guess I can segue into I think 3 tips for myself that helped me be successful. First, I had to learn time management. That was a big one for me. I was spending a lot of time on things that I had no business spending time on. I had to learn how to walk away from an opportunity. That was hard for me as well. You always try to get those opportunities in your pipeline. And I spent a lot of time chasing those folks that I didn't need to be chasing. So, the key for me was definitely time management. So what I did, I tracked where I was spending the majority of my time every day and came up with a plan on how and where I want to spend that time. And then I just had to implement and maximize that. And so that was a big one for me, and that definitely helped me. I got a lot more done in the day. I was starting to close a lot more opportunities, as well as finding a lot more opportunities, because now I had some extra time and I can focus on those leads or digging into my already existing book of business and trying to find those areas where I can help expand my account growth, which is always good. The managers love to hear that, account growth, because that's key. But that was definitely a big one that I had to learn at first. And then from there, for me, customer focus. A lot of times, especially again starting out, is you have to listen to your customer, focus on your customers, having those conversations. A new salesperson, you might go in and you try to sell someone a product or a service that they might not be interested in and stuff, and then you lose that audience and stuff. So me, for myself, my thing is I try to learn as much about the customer. I ask a lot of questions, especially about their business. Find out that people love to talk about themselves and their business.
Yes, they do.
And then just by those conversations that you have with them, you can just listen to context clues. They might mention something like, yeah, I'm doing this, but I really want to do this, and then you hear a pain point. And so at the end of that conversation, like, well, based on what you just said, you have a pain point here in this area. Well, I have a solution for that. And so let's dig into that, and I'll run through that solution and see how that sounds, how that works out for them.
Instead of following just a script, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And stuff. So definitely, for me, focusing on customer, listening to the customer, providing solutions to pain points that they have, and not just providing solutions for the sake of providing solutions. And then another one that this one I get from my current district sales manager. We always set sales target goals, but he's got me to kind of set sales target goals that scare me. So
Really?
yes, and get outside that comfort zone. I mean, set the bar high. And what that does for me, I'm very self-motivated, and so I'm my own biggest critic. If I have a goal set and I'm trying to reach that goal, and let's say I have 3 days left to achieve that goal, and I'm not quite there, I'm beating myself up, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I meet that goal, or whether it's getting up at 6 in the morning and working all the way to 10 that night, or might have to work on some weekends, or I might need to make 10 extra phone calls today, or I might need, if I'm out canvassing, okay, I'm going to hit 10 extra businesses today. So whatever it is that I need to reach that sales goal, I'm going to do. So. But sorry for the long-winded answer.
Oh, no, this is all really good stuff. And I wanted to tie it back, you said time management, customer focus, and setting your goals high, right?
Right,
Those
correct.
are 3 pillars for yourself.
For me,
Yes.
yes.
That's
For
good
the
wisdom.
competitive, self-motivated sales.
Exactly.
I mean, there are a lot of those out there.
It is.
I'll
Where
say-
to be a great salesperson, I feel you have to be self-motivated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not self-motivated, I think it's going to be hard for you. And like I said, again, I'm my biggest critic. I think a lot of that comes from, like she said earlier, just from my athletic background. I've been involved in sports in some form or fashion all my life. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My grandmother had 16 brothers and sisters, so we have a big family. So I just grew up
Natural competition.
Exactly. So I just grew up in that competitive environment. I've never been shy. As you can tell, I'm not afraid to talk. That's one thing I had to learn early on as well. Not to I've talked myself out of sales at times. So.
Okay, gotcha. So know your strengths, know your weaknesses.
Exactly.
All that great stuff. So I wanted to talk about time management really quickly because
Okay.
that definitely, for sales, that's huge. And for small business owners, I mean, I think that might be one of the biggest pain points in general.
Right.
Time management, because most entrepreneurs try and do things, they try and do everything until they can't do everything. That's what I've learned.
Right.
And when they realize that they actually reach out, say, I need help in this, and that, so I can focus on this most important thing that I love to do, they tend to be happy about that.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was
Yeah,
gonna ask.
and that kind of segue. So I'm a senior solution advisor, and I sell business services. And so a lot of it's the entrepreneurs, the small business folks that I deal with. A lot of them are still doing their own bookkeeping. A lot of them are trying to do their own payroll. And again, that's something that's taken away from their time that they can exert into their business. So they started a business to sell a service or a product because it's something that they love to do. But if you're back there trying to do your bookkeeping on a Saturday or trying to do it at the end of the month, like tomorrow, Friday, or something like that, and trying to make sure you got all your P&Ls and all that stuff squared away, I can help with that. And so that's one thing, a pain point I can take off your plate. And then that way you can spend that time, whether it's focused back into your business or into your family life, whatever that case may be.
Okay. Excellent.
Also, not every entrepreneur is good at bookkeeping. Okay, I'm guilty as charged. Like my accountant does not want me messing with that stuff. So being able to find an accessible set of services like they have here at this incredible store is such a huge benefit to small business owners and startups and entrepreneurs. I mean, you know, I've written about this before on Forbes too. The number, I think half of all American jobs are from small businesses in the United States. It's a big deal.
Wow.
So what Office Depot is doing here is really helping out a big chunk of our American economy, frankly, and helping us grow at a time where we need it the most. I'm grateful.
Right. So that's part of why we're doing the Depot Biz Chats, is to get that out there that, you know, Office Depot, yes, you can get your ink and your paper, but you can get your business services done. You know, if you've got a business and there are certain things that you're not an expert in, or like we just talked about time management, you don't have the time, and you're doing it at 3 in the morning. You should be sleeping at 3 in the morning, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Sleep at 3 in the morning. You come out here to Rod, if you will, and he'll find the right solution for you. But I wanted to end on something specific. We didn't go over this, so you're going to be a little like, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because it's from one of your articles on Forbes.
I'm intrigued. Pop quiz.
We did our research.
I'm prepared.
We did our research.
So Tanya, you use a word that I really, really like, and I'm going to use it now. It's called paymentum.
Paymentum.
I remember.
Yeah, okay, cool. You got it.
We talked about that on a Monday.
We did.
Paymentum.
It's an interesting mentality to have, because it's not just like I'm here to help myself. It helps you. Actually, can you explain it? Because I don't want to explain it wrong.
So I'm a huge fan of like super punny jokes, and I also kind of make up words sometimes because I'm a nerd. By the way, that's me on Twitter's @nerdette, which is ridiculous. Yeah, that's my Okay. That's an early adopter. It should be @Tanya Tarr, but it's @nerdette, nerdette. If you want to find me on Twitter. So I came up with this idea of paymentum, which is really about getting paid and the momentum around getting paid. And this is super important for entrepreneurs that might be in like a helping service or something like that. So I've done a lot of work with wellness communities and practitioners there too. But, you know, you might also just have that sort of, you know, part of service that might make you feel uncomfortable about charging appropriately or charging what the market demands. And I think women entrepreneurs in particular really suffer from this. They tend to undercharge. And the thing about it is, if you're helping someone through some sort of transformation, you also need to get them to be really focused on making that change in their life. And so sometimes, sometimes that involves getting them to pay more than they feel like they're comfortable in doing. And the thing about it is that by getting them to do that, it really cements, from a decision science standpoint, it cements their decision to move forward in changing what they're doing, right? And so you're really there, you know, as a service provider or with the product that you're offering to them, you're helping them move through their transformation onto their next level. And so really by undercharging, you're not actually doing a service to your customer or your client. I found this out because for a long time, I mean, I've been seeing clients since like 2011 independently, and then just going full on last year. What I noticed was, because I do very much, I mean, I come out of nonprofit work, so I have this huge, you know, heart of service, and so I constantly give stuff away for free, and then I'd be lectured by my friends, which I should have been, because you shouldn't give stuff away for free. But their argument was always like, well, you should charge because you're worth it. And that's true. We all should charge because we're worth it, and hopefully it's also grounded in market value and all these other things. What I found was it wasn't helping my clients. And I found, both for myself when I would engage a coach, because I have an executive coach, I have a sales coach, and all these things, and I have people that help me out, like my acupuncturist, and like I always paid, I would ask them first what their rates were, and I'd make sure to pay them, and if it was appropriate to give like a tip, I do that too, because I really believe in rewarding people for what they're doing. On the other end of it as a coach, I was finding when I didn't charge enough, that it would not help the clients would not move or transform in a way that they really needed to. And when I would encounter clients where I would say, you know, this is my rate, and maybe it was even higher than what I was comfortable with, even if they didn't seem like they could afford it, what I found was that my clients were transforming faster. They were taking measures to change their life. They were taking my advice seriously, and they were making changes. So really, Paymentum is about creating momentum for your client or your customer, and really you're just there as someone who's helping in that process. You're just there to receive the funds from them. It ceases to be about a referendum on you as a person. I think that's something a lot of people kind of struggle with, and I don't think it's gender specific. I think, you know, everyone kind of might feel that way because people get a little funny about money, but like if you think about money as creating momentum, you know, it's a tool. You know, it's not an end. It's a means to an end, and so that's why, yeah, Paymentum. You want to create that momentum. Paymentum.
You guys can use that.
Coined by Nerdette. So just make sure you remember that. You have to give her.
Yeah, but, you know, just start the momentum and be bold about it, because really it's about helping the person out, helping your client out, helping your community out. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
So we have gone through most of our stuff. I wanted to open it up to our Facebook viewers. If you have any questions, if you're a small business owner, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you're a big business owner, if you are at all attached to business and you have a question regarding negotiations or sales, now's the time to get an actual personalized answer from our experts. So please, also, I believe we posted a comment that anyone who asks a good question, we will... just read the comments, actually. We are giving away something. I don't want to give that away.
There's a giveaway. Go read the comments.
But yes, we would love to answer any questions if you have any. So I will wait here. We'll just look at my imaginary watch.
One of those things.
Check social media.
What was that?
Check social media.
Jeopardy.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good sound.
Yes, the Jeopardy.
The Jeopardy song. But while we wait, I also want to remind you that, you know, maybe you're just a little shy, and maybe you would like to ask a question in a more private setting. We do have a Facebook group specifically for small business owners and entrepreneurs. You can join that group. Simply just go to our Office Depot page, scroll down till you find the group, join. There are 3 questions that revolve around what your business is, what your pain points are, so we can get a better idea of what you're here for. And, you know, Tanya's in the group. Our last speaker, Candy Barone, was in the group, who did a bit about online storytelling. I mean, we're trying to build this community here where we help each other, right?
Do we have another date for our next live?
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
July 20th, we have a Dr. Michael Hartley who will be talking about 5 ways to increase your profits.
Nice.
And he's got a very specific number, so it's really interesting. I laughed the whole time when, I'm sorry, that sounds weird. I laughed and learned the whole time when I went to his seminar.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we met. I was just like, I learned so much in an hour, and I really need you to teach other people this stuff. while entertaining too. So, but I'm not trying to beat him up. Also, you have been an amazing speaker. I appreciate this. You've taught us so much.
No, it's all.
You have been an amazing. We're all amazing speakers.
You make us look good.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
It's a
That's
dream
right.
team right
It's
here.
it's easy.
Yeah.
One dream, one team.
There you go.
Oh, we do have a question.
Okay, I have one too, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, you
Okay.
go first.
So this question is when a sales negotiation is going sideways, how do you, so I guess off track?
Probably
Right.
bad.
How do you get it back on track? Is there a way to get that back on track?
That is a great question. What do you think, sales expert?
I was going to let the negotiation expert handle that one.
Well, let's think about this. So you're going, I wonder what sideways would look like. I know that there have been a couple of times where I've been on a sales call. I've had like an inbound lead, so somebody has reached out to me and said, hey, I'm interested in talking about your coaching services. Can we have a conversation? And I'll get on a phone with them. And for me, sideways means, because this happens unfortunately a lot on the services side of things, like the so-called potential client actually is just trying to pick my brain for free. By the way, I hate that phrase more than anything.
Pick your brain.
Pick your brain.
Right.
That is the worst. Like, we're not zombies, people. Do not pick my brain. But when it becomes obvious that like there's not going to be a sales here, that they're actually not being kind of direct with me and they're just trying to get free advice, what I'll do is, and this maybe is not exactly what the question is asking, but you have to. You mentioned this too, right? You have to be able to identify when to cut your losses.
Right.
And so in that case, particularly because I'm the type where I find it tricky to ask for more sums of money as my business grows, I actually have now, I used to get super irritated by this scenario, and now when I encounter it, I'm like, great, this is just an opportunity for me to practice anchoring super high. So I was on a call recently with someone who wanted to talk about executive coaching, and about 10 minutes in, I realized, no, this person just wants free advice. And so eventually we got to a point where she wanted me to talk about pricing, and so I said, yeah, so typically when a company has me come in to do like a 2-hour class, my rate is $5,000, which is actually, I mean, it's pretty high. But it was intentionally very high, and it was literally, it almost felt like she jumped on the phone call. And she was like, oh, I have another call, sorry, I have to go. And like, okay, that was kind of, for that situation, that pricing was a little bit inflated.
Right.
But I need to get used to asking people for that level of price for my time, because my time is very useful, especially if I'm helping them with sales negotiation or things like that, because it's literally an investment. What they're paying me is going to be a fraction of what they're going to end up getting in sales, because it's going to guide their strategy and get them to be more successful. So I think the one thing is, know how to cut your losses. If it's not going to result in a sale or a partnership that benefits you, then use it as an example to anchor high. If it's a sale that you want to, Rod, I'm going to ask for your advice on this. Because I have my idea, but I feel like you have more experience on this. If you want to sort of put that conversation back on the tracks, like one way would be to sort of refocus on goals. So I know not so much in a sales situation, right? But in other situations where, especially when I've had to do like legislative negotiation or things like that, or working with community leaders, when the negotiation of any type starts to go off the rails, it can be helpful to revisit what the goals are and help people stay focused.
That's
right?
what I was going to say. And then you kind of touched on this earlier as well. You have to make sure that the opportunity was a valued opportunity. Like saying, it might have been someone who might have just been fishing for some information or about the service or the product that you might have. But if you feel like the individual was genuinely a great opportunity for you and the negotiation stalled out, try to identify what happened, where things started to go sideways, as you would say, and try to have another conversation with that individual and talk about the value of the solution or the product that you're selling or pitching to them. And based on the conversations that we had prior, you said X, Y, and Z, and I had this solution, and we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to come in and help you in that area. But now we've seen that we stalled out, and just trying to get some feedback from them and find out what they're thinking. Why all of a sudden now we want to hold off, or whatever that case may be. So it could be a number of underlying factors. It might be something that will come up personal life. It might be if they're entrepreneur and a small business person. It might be funds. I might have to allocate funds in other parts of the business at that time. So just myself, I would just try to have a conversation to kind of find out what went wrong and then address it from there.
Diagnostic questions are really open-ended questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Get more information.
Open-ended questions are very key. I learned that a long time ago.
Well, I hate to wrap it up, but we have gone way over 20 minutes.
Whoa.
But it's been
Okay.
fun. That's why,
Yeah,
you know. And
so fun.
Yeah.
learning so much. So much. I'm sorry. We keep getting more. We got
More
another
questions. Hey, you know, we're going to hang out on the comments too afterwards, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer any questions you might put into the comments. If you're here in Austin, again, Ron and I are going to, I'm just recruiting you. We're
It's
gonna do
okay.
it together.
We're doing this together. Well, I emailed you yesterday and gave
Yeah.
you the thumbs up, so
I
hey,
know.
I'm on board.
I am so excited, and seriously, this location, this flagship, is gorgeous. It does not look like any Office Depot you've ever seen before, and it's just completely fabulous. I'm on Instagram at Tanya Tarr, and I'm going to do some fun stuff on like an Instagram story to walk through this beautiful space that we have. And in next month, Tuesday, July 31st at 6:30 p.m. here in Austin, Texas, we're going to be doing a negotiation class here. We'll drop the Eventbrite in the comments. Lots of free parking, super awesome, wonderful location. And then I'm also going to be doing some free classes online too. So we'll add more details about that. But yeah, Jason, I'm so excited to have been included. So
Thank you so much. You've been so
Yeah.
I keep saying it, but I've learned so much this week. This is like my favorite thing about being a community manager for Office Depot, specifically about business services. I mean, I don't think there's anyone in this world that isn't connected to someone who started a business or runs a business or
My
wants to.
dad's a small business owner.
Right. My whole childhood was my parents running a small business and
Right.
running all over the place and doing everything, you know. So that's probably why I never started my own business. But I definitely have ideas.
tough.
And, you know, being part of this community, being part of that Facebook group, I learn something almost every day where it's like, wow, I'm one step closer to being able to
Right.
actually take that step, that step that everyone calls a leap almost, you know, it's a risk.
It is.
But
I'm here when you're ready.
right.
Yes.
You when you're ready, you can always come to Office Depot, speak to our business advisors such as Rod. You can also go to www.officedepot.com and check out our services category, our services section. We have a plethora of business services. I wish I could turn this camera around so you can actually see the space, but like Tanya said, we're going to be doing an Instagram story on her Instagram just to give you a little taste or a little peek of what we have in store here at this store.
It's fancy.
It's fancy.
And small businesses make our economy strong. So thank you, Office Depot, for being here for us and helping us stay strong. Super important.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys again. Join the Facebook group, check out the Instagram story, and we'll see you again on July 20th.